Podsters, you know, when you see something really cool in the news about a female executive and she's being tapped to do like the impossible, let's say it's so and so was just, was just named CEO of this company and she's going to turn things around. Their profits are in the toilet and she's being tapped to turn things around. Or, XYZ company has faced significant safety or FDA issues and the company just appointed this woman to turn things around. She's going to be the turnaround queen. She's done it before, she'll do it again. And inside you're like, oh, yeah, girl, woohoo, like go girl. And then we realize, or we ask ourselves, or should we ask ourselves, whoa, hold up just a second. What if these women aren't being set up for success? What if these women are specifically being set up in a situation where they need to be a fixer, they need to get something back on track, or they need to be the turnaround queen? And it's a situation with a company that's already in crisis, or everything's already falling apart, or things are in turmoil. And this happens a lot. So my ask of you this week, Podsters, is to think about this. And we're going to get into it in today's episode. Think about Marissa Mayer and Yahoo when she was appointed to Yahoo right after the debacle with Google. We have most recently Kamala Harris stepping in to run for president of the United States when the company or the country is in significant turmoil. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. In America right now, things are not going swimmingly, and I think we can all admit that. We have Linda Yaccarino became the CEO of X, formerly known as Twitter, right after Elon Musk really just kind of screwed the pooch. And, because of the way he acted, it resulted in plummeting ad revenue. So when you think about all of these women and you think about the opportunities, let's also think about, are we being set up to fail? This is called the glass cliff phenomenon. We are diving into it today. I'm going to give you 3 questions to ask yourself if you think you might be in a glass cliff situation. And if you ask yourself these questions, you'll be able to make the decision that is best for you. So with that, Podsters, let's take it away.
Are you ready to speak up, stand out, and get your seat at the table? If so, you're in the right place. Welcome to Unmute Yourself, the podcast where you'll get real-life anecdotes and actionable tools for you to step into your strengths, debunk imposter syndrome, truly know your worth, and show up like you own the room every time. I'm your host, Nancy Medoff, who did the thing and followed my passion for empowering women like you to unleash that inner spark and become who you know you are meant to be. I'm a diehard foodie with a raging Skittles habit who will not stop until women everywhere unmute themselves and truly thrive at work, at home, or wherever you may be. Let's do this.
Podsters, what's up? We back. I am coming at you actually from Florida. I will be back in Boston by the time you play this. For now, however, I'm in sunny Florida. We just wrapped up the Do the Thing retreat. It was off the rails. So if you missed it, if you're new and you didn't know about it, or if you didn't sign up for it, I got to be honest, Podsters, I was on the fence as to whether or not I was going to do another one. And after the last couple days, it's coming. It's coming in 2025. So this is 2 nights, 1.5 days for you to meet with me and other like-minded women to actually do the thing. This thing, whatever it is, it's to actually do it, to stop talking about doing it and to do it. So it was amazing. Link in the show notes for the next one, which probably be like end of Q1, maybe early Q2. All right. So what are we going to talk about today, Podsters? Today, we're talking about something that I hesitated to talk about. I'm going to tell you right now, this is not about politics. I'm not going to talk about politics. And at the same time, I do want to talk about this concept called the glass cliff, not the glass ceiling. Talking about the glass cliff phenomenon. So, again, this is not the glass ceiling, which we've all seen, heard, experienced. What I'm referring to here is something completely different. So the glass cliff was coined to describe when women are tapped for leadership roles right at the time when things are already falling apart, or in a time of crisis, or when a turnaround is needed. And when I first heard about this, I'm like, that's interesting. Maybe people are paranoid, or maybe people are complaining, or maybe, I don't know about this. And then I started thinking about it. I started thinking about Yahoo and Marissa Mayer. Do you remember her? This was 2012. So we're talking over 13 years ago. She was appointed CEO of Yahoo when right after Yahoo had lost significant market share to Google. So we were all excited that we had a female in tech that was at the helm. And at the same time, it was interesting. It's interesting when you look back on it. And I'm gonna come back to this. Okay. Stephanie Pope took the helm at Boeing this past year, or a couple of years ago, and inherited a mess of safety issues. Linda Yaccarino became the CEO of X, formerly Twitter, after our friend Elon really kind of ran it almost into the ground. So finally, the reason why I wanted to talk about this glass cliff is the woman where it resonated with me the most. And I wasn't sure what the outcome of this US election was going to be. So I wanted to wait. And I wanted to see what happened. So, of course, we have Kamala Harris, who found herself in the classic glass cliff scenario. Again, this is not about politics. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're a Republican. I don't care if you're an independent. I don't care if you're voting in America, not voting in America. This is not about politics. This is about a woman being asked to step up to lead in the middle of chaos. And in this situation, it was after the sitting president, or the incumbent president, stepped down, and she was asked to step up in the middle of an incredibly tumultuous time. And if she won, she would be expected to lead in this incredibly tumultuous time. So the question here is, and this is not about Kamala, so that was an example. Now I'm just talking about in general. With this glass cliff, are these women being set up to fail? And why is it that women are being tapped in these particular situations? So that's what we're going to talk about. So these are powerhouse women. They're qualified, they're capable, they're smart, and yet they're given the reins right when things are falling apart. And because of that, they end up being hyper scrutinized or expected to perform like the turnaround. So I remember, I'm going to share a couple of examples from my corporate career. I remember two things. One, I was asked to move certain people out in my organization a long time ago. There were low performers or non-performers. And my boss at the time said, will you work with them, or will you work to move them into either a different role or move them, not in this role? It sounds a lot more callous than it was. It was really, hey, are you happy? If you want to stay in this role, let's talk about some things that we can work on for your improvement. If not, let's get you in a role that you want to be in. Because what I've found in my experience is, if someone's underperforming, more often than not, it's not the right job for them, and they don't love it. So it's rare when someone's underperforming and they love what they do and they're so excited about it. Usually there's something else going on, but I digress. So I was hired, or I was asked actually, to take on a leadership role in moving certain people out. And at the time, I really didn't think much of it. I'm very black and white. They're not performing. Let's get them on a performance plan and see if they can turn it around. And if they can't, then we need to talk about, options. And I remember very casually, after like 3 people that I worked with and who ended up leaving, somebody made a joke and they said, yeah, they brought Nancy in. They might have called me the hatchet queen or something like that. And I remember thinking to myself at the time, well, wait a minute. No, that's not what I did. I worked with these people. I tried to help them. I tried to, get them on the right path. And that's not how it was perceived. And I wonder if the same would have been true if it was someone else in the role, or if it was one of my male colleagues. And this is to say that is a very small example, or tiny example of this glass cliff. I'm going to give you a better example. So, and this is from my personal career. This is many, many years ago. I was asked by my boss at the time, by my big boss, my boss's boss, if I would consider moving to Hong Kong and building and leading the global sales organization over there. And this included Hong Kong, I think Korea, and Japan, and China. So I was maybe in my 30s, mid 30s, maybe, I don't remember. And I had a little bit of leadership experience, not a ton. And I remember I was very excited because at the time I wanted to live in Hong Kong. And something inside of me said, you know what, before you say yes, maybe you should vet this, which is interesting because usually I'm a jump in and ask questions later type of person. Something instinctually said to me, tap the brakes a little bit. Let's go check it out. Got on a plane, flew over there. And the reality of what that job would entail and the reality of moving to a country where I don't speak the language, nor can you understand the language. I mean, Mandarin, it's not like you can pick that up quickly. It's a tough language. I did not know one person. It was a completely different time zone. So while I would be going to work, my family and friends back in Boston or Chicago or wherever, they would be sleeping. I didn't understand the culture. I didn't understand the difference in cultures between those different countries. There weren't a lot of women in leadership positions at the time. And I remember I'm like, I don't know if this is a good idea. And I'll think about it. I was dreaming of living in Hong Kong. I had been to Hong Kong a couple of times. I was dying to live there. The opportunity presented itself and something inside me said, let's tap the brakes a second. The reason why I share this story with you is because if and when you find yourself in a similar position of this, being at the precipice of this glass cliff, it might not be right now leading a multi-billion-dollar company. And at the same time, if you're feeling the pressure to take things on as a fixer, or that was my first example, or to get this project back on track, or you know what, you really have the best people skills and we think you'd be great at this, all very valid, I'm sure. You know, you can turn the team around. I want to make sure that you're making sure that this is a good move for you, okay? Because you're not a superhero and you don't have a cape. So let's talk about this example. For some reason, my instinct said, let's tap the brakes for a second. So really think through this opportunity that is in front of you. This is me talking to you now, not me talking to my former self. Make sure that you can do it on your terms and that it's not a Band-Aid. It's not a last-ditch attempt. It's not, let's throw her in there and then whatever. If she can't, it's fine. We'll just scrap the whole thing. That's not setting you up for success. So here are 3 things to ask yourself or your boss when you're being tapped as this turnaround queen. First thing is, what's the likelihood of success? And I love that question for a number of reasons. And one of the reasons that I love it the most is because this is literally what I asked myself on the plane ride home from Hong Kong to Boston when I made my decision. What's the likelihood that I will succeed here? Do I have the support I need? Do I have the resources? Will I have the ability to make decisions? Now I'm talking to you. Will you be empowered to do what you know needs to be done? What are the limitations of what you can do in the role? So when you're asking yourself or your boss, what's the likelihood of success? This is the perfect time for a gut check and to really listen to what your instincts are telling you. And it's not that our instincts don't tell us what to do, it's that we don't listen. So the second question I want you to ask is, why me? And does it matter why you? So sometimes you benefit from sheer luck or timing or strategic luck, whatever you want to call it. And being in the right place at the right time can catapult you into an incredible opportunity. If it feels good to you, go for it. You know, why me? And if you can't answer why me, but you're still excited, good, do it. If you're not sure and you're not sure why you and you're not comfortable with that, then you need to find out, okay, why am I being tapped for this? What is it about me? Why me and not someone else? Which is a very, very reasonable question to ask. if you're being asked to take on something significant that has a high probability of a difficult transition, high probability of a difficult outcome. I can wordsmith this till we're blue in the pants or blue in the face. The question is, why you? And do you care? If you don't care, great. Move on. Do it. Okay. The last question is, what will be the impact here if we don't succeed? And I want you to ask, what will be the impact to you if you don't succeed? We don't shy away from challenges here at Unmute Yourself. You know that I'm a strong believer in high risk, high reward. At the same time, you have to work through the worst case scenarios and you have to be comfortable with the outcomes. Let's go back to the Hong Kong example. The Hong Kong example, the worst possible outcome was that I would fail. Now, the worst possible outcome for me was that I would fail. I would be thousands, hundreds of thousands of miles away from my family, away from everyone I know, away from everything I know. I would be lonely. I could be depressed. I would be miserable. The worst case scenarios were pretty bad. Best case scenarios, pretty good. I mean, good. I do it, I succeed, great. But the worst case, was I willing to do this? Was I willing to put the worst case scenario on the line here? And was I willing to accept the worst case scenario? And the answer was no. And I remember this is it's so interesting, Podsters, because this was really a long time ago. And it was almost 20 years ago. Wow. Yeah, it was almost 20 years ago. And I remember like it was yesterday. I went home on the airplane. I landed. I had a car come pick me up. This was before Uber. That's how long ago it was. And I had a car pick me up. And I remember the driver was a very nice man. I think he was maybe Russian. I remember he had an Eastern European accent. I can't remember where he was from. And we were having a conversation, and his English was great. And I was telling him, I said, well, here's the deal. I'm on my way back from Hong Kong. Here's why. I have this amazing opportunity, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm talking it through with a stranger. And when he went to, I can't believe it. I'm going to get choked up on this. When he went to drop me off, I remember he dropped me off outside of my condo in Chicago. He walked around and handed me my luggage. And he said, can I give you a hug? And I said, absolutely. I'm a hugger. So he gave me a hug and I said, I don't think I'm going to do it. I don't think I'm going to do it. And he said, I'm glad to hear you say that because this would be very hard for you. He said, this would be very hard for you, meaning this would be hard on your life and this would be hard on your priorities and what you want and where you are and, all of those things. Sure, it could have been great if you think about it. Anyway, it would have been very hard. And it would have been hard. It would have been hard on me mentally. It would have been hard on me physically. It would have been hard on me spiritually. It would have been very difficult. And I was not willing to do that. And I remember I was terrified to tell my then big boss that I didn't think it was going to work. And I didn't think it was going to work. This is part I left out that's really important. I didn't think it was going to work because I didn't think I would be set up for success. I didn't know the language. I didn't know the culture. None of them knew me. I barely knew how to lead a team. I was a very new manager. And you need to have some pretty strong leadership skills to manage an organization across three different countries in a completely different continent. I mean, not knowing any customers. I mean, no contacts, no network. I was not being set up for success. And there was no malice in this. This was an idea that someone had. Hey, Nancy wants to live over there. She knows what to do. Let's see if she can go over there and do it. And I remember coming back and saying, you know what, I don't think it's a good idea. And they ended up, so my boss thanked me for the conversation and the feedback and the perspective. And that was one of the first times I realized that people that are higher than you in an organization, they don't know everything and they know they don't know everything. So when someone's asking you your opinion, it's because they want your opinion. So I remember thinking to myself, oh, one of the reasons he sent me over there was to see what I thought. And I remember being stunned by that, which in retrospect, that's of course why he sent me over there. So the moral of what I'm trying to say here is I'm all for leveraging opportunities. I'm all for taking on new challenges. I am the queen of letting go of your own limiting beliefs. What I'm suggesting is that before we blindly take on an opportunity where there's a little bit of a red flag or a little bit of a glass cliff, let's have the clarity and the confidence to know that you know what's best for you. And if it does not feel right, you don't have to do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. The end. So that's what I have for you, Podsters. That's what I have today. Again, I wanted to see what happened with the presidential election. But it happened to be a female was there, was the vice president. Do I think she was purposely set up? Absolutely not. I think it was an opportunity for her to step in. And at the same time, it was an opportunity for her to step in a really difficult situation. And she would have been hyper criticized no matter what she did. So think about that. The next time you have a big, gnarly opportunity you're not quite too sure about, think about the 3 things that we talked about, the 3 questions to ask, and always go with your instincts. So with that, Podster, peace out. I will see you next week. We're talking about trees, my favorite thing, right in time for Thanksgiving. Until then, peace out, Podsters.
That's a wrap, Podsters. And before we go, I ask you, what's one thing from today's episode that you will use this week to unmute yourself? DM me, email me, send a smoke signal, whatever you need to do. Let me know what you're going to do differently. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone you know and leave a 5-star review on Apple. This helps me spread our message of empowerment to more people worldwide. Let's do this.